Hello, happy people. This is Mr. Wilcox. This is for Algebra 2, and this is still in our review of Algebra 1 skills. And so today we're going to be reviewing how to solve absolute value equations. Feel free to pause this video at any time to write down the notes. So, first, before we actually get to what an absolute equation is, let's talk about what an absolute value actually is. So the absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. And how we show we're using absolute value is we use these absolute value bars. So since it is a distance can never be negative. We never measure negative 6 inches or negative 6 feet, and we can't go negative 12 miles because that doesn't make any sense because distances are positive. So an absolute value gives a positive number, which is the distance a number is from 0. So for example, if we were to take the absolute value of 4, notice the bars around it. The absolute value of 4, how far is 4 from 0? 4 is 4 from 0. How far is negative 1.5 from 0? Well, that is a positive 1.5 from 0. And how far is 0 from 0? 0 is 0. So the absolute value of a positive number is positive. Absolute value of a negative number is positive. Absolute value of 0 is 0. So positive numbers stay positive, negative numbers become positive, 0 stays 0. All right, now that we remember what an absolute value is, an absolute value equation is obviously an equation that contains an absolute value. In our case, the variable will always be inside of the absolute value bars. The absolute values, remember, can only be equal to a positive number because an absolute value is a distance. So if we ever have an absolute value equal to a negative number, we're going to write no solution because there's no number we can plug into an absolute value and get a negative number out. So if we look at the absolute value of x equals 4, there are two numbers we can plug in for x. The first one is 4, so if I plug in 4, the absolute value of 4, the other number that is 4 away from 0 is x could be negative 4. And so that's where this comes into effect. Every problem we're going to have is going to have two solutions because there are two numbers, that number and the opposite, that have the same distance from 0. So we're going to have two solutions if there is a solution at all. All right, so let's see what we're going to do. So this fancy algebra states that if we have an absolute value equation equal to a number that's bigger than or equal to 0, so it's positive, what we're going to do is we're going to set that equation equal to that number and equal to its opposite. So let's see what that means with numbers. If I have the absolute value of x minus 3 equals 8, one of two things happened. Either I took x minus 3, and when I did that, I got 8, so I got the absolute value of 8, which is 8. Or when I took x minus 3, I got negative 8, because if negative 8 is between those bars, the absolute value of negative 8 is 8. So then we can just solve each side like we did when we had OR inequalities. Solve each equation on its own. So if we add 3 here, we'll get x equals 11. Or if we add 3 to both sides on this side, we get x equals negative 5. If you put your negative first, it's not wrong. If you put your positive first, it's not wrong, as long as you have these two solutions. All right, so we have x equals 11 or x equals negative 5. All right, here's another example. The absolute value of r minus 7 equals 9. So we have our absolute value equal to a positive number. So one of two things happened. When we took r minus 7, we could have gotten 9 because the absolute value of 9 is 9. Or when we took r minus 7, we got negative 9. Because, again, if we have the absolute value of negative 9, that's going to come out to 9 as well. So if I add 7 to both sides here, I get r equals 16. And if I add 7 to both sides here, I get r equals negative 2. So r is either negative 2 or 16. All right, one last example. We have z plus 4 equals negative 12. Now, if we look at our absolute value, is no number we can plug in to get our absolute value to be negative 12. Because even if we plugged in 8, 8 plus 4 is positive 12. The absolute value of positive 12 is positive 12. And even if we plugged in negative 16 so that the number in the absolute value gets us negative 12, the absolute value of negative 12 is still positive 12. So there's actually nothing we can plug in at all to get this to be true. So we're going to write no solution. Because the absolute value is a distance and it cannot equal a negative number. Right, so that's it for the lesson on reminding ourselves how to solve absolute value equations. Your homework is on page 55. It says to graph your solutions. You don't have to do that. A copy of this page is on Brightspace for you. And don't forget to check the activity feed on Brightspace as well to find out what you should be doing on your virtual days. Have a great day, Cardinals, and make it count.